Today I'm going to talk about designing your ideal week. This is like a template that you use when you are planning your week ahead. When I do my quarterly review, so I look back on the past quarter, this is the moment where I also look at my ideal week and redesign it if needed. Of course, you can redesign it at every moment, especially when a job is changing or you are changing a hobby or sports times or things from the kids, then it makes sense to make a new ideal week. It doesn't mean that every week that I plan looks like my ideal week. It just helps to see where all your goals fit in for the upcoming week. I'm using the template of the Full Focus Planner. You can find it on their website as a download as well, which makes sense to first do it on paper before you put it into your real planner. You can find other ideal week templates on Google or make your own in an Excel sheet if you prefer working on the computer. The one by the Full Focus Planner works in half hour and has times from 5 a.m. until 9 p.m. So if you work night shifts, maybe you would need a different template because you're designing the night hours as well. But in this one, you will only have the day hours. I start by putting in all the fixed things. So school pickup, school drop off, all the set appointments that you know for sure you need to be somewhere at a certain time. This could be your work hours if you don't work flexible hours like I do. So this is where I start. If you like to work with colors, of course, you can use different colors for work, school, and your hobbies. I will just use a pencil right here. For school drop off, that's the same time every day. And I block the time that I have to be there, but also the time that it takes me traveling, because that we have to be there at a certain time means we have to leave at a certain time too. So I block that whole period. Now I will put down all the music lessons, sports, because those are fixed items too. And before we move any further into this, it makes sense to make a list of the things you actually have to do. And it will be everything that's on your plate. You can divide the activities into things that bring you joy and the things that don't really bring you joy. For me, that's things like practicing cello, going for a run, spending time with the kids, spending time with my boyfriend, against doing household chores. Both are things that I want to fit into my ideal week because I need to accommodate to find the time for both of them. But it's about finding a balance. And with planning this ideal week, it's not about being super specific. So you can plan 1 hour of self-care once a week without specifying what it's for. And it could be the hour that you use for going to the gym during 1 week, going to the hairdresser for a haircut, getting a massage, bath time, waxing, getting my eyebrows done, or maybe my nails, my hair. So you just fit this 1 hour of self-care or time for yourself into your schedule. So on my list that I made, I have things like household, which covers all the topics, the daily stuff, my garden, laundry, cleaning, the chickens. So everything around the house. Social stuff, my friends, my parents, the kids, boyfriend. I put down the eating schedule into my ideal week, especially because I'm doing intermittent fasting, which means that I only eat during my eating window, and it's good to plan ahead to know from which time you will be eating. If you now start with filling your week with all the have to do's that feel like more negative to you but have to be done, then you will find less space for the positive things. So I like to start with all the stuff that brings me joy and spread them over the week, because it's also about building up your own energy again. If you take a break, if you go for a run, it should leave you with positive energy. So spreading those throughout the week to make your week flow in a better way. that works better than now filling everything up with work and then thinking I don't have any time left to do fun stuff. Sleep is the most important thing to schedule. I have been reading Why We Sleep a couple of times now. I'm actually back into reading it right now. And if you have done it, I recommend you to read it again. If you haven't, go read it. But it made me change my whole schedule. From a night owl, I went to going to bed early. So my bedtime actually is around 10. I aim to be in bed before it, but around 10 is still fine. And I don't get up at 5, so for this schedule I just block everything until 6 a.m. because that's my time when I get up. Also during the weekends. For your body it doesn't make sense to have a day of sleeping in or 2 days of sleeping in, so really get on a continuous schedule. And sleep means I cannot do anything else during that time. In the past it made sense to me somehow to have less sleep because it means that you have more hours in a day to do more things that you need to do or feel like you need to do. And for me that was the easiest way to get more things done, sleep less. So every time when people ask me, how do you do all these things? Well, I just don't sleep. And now when I started to focus more on sleeping and really aim for this at least 7 hours of sleep. And that doesn't mean being in bed for 7 hours, because I've experienced that I need to be in bed for way more hours to get these 7 hours of sleep. I've experienced that now when I focused on getting more sleep, I feel better during the day. I can concentrate way better and I actually get more things done. And I don't think being productive has anything to do with cramping as much stuff, work related, into your day as possible. It's more about designing your days in a better way and also designing the breaks that you need to take and the activities that give you a positive energy instead of sitting and don't really knowing what you want to do, and then you start scrolling Instagram and get lost in the social media world for 2 hours and you feel like you haven't done anything with your day. So that's why I make my ideal week and really plan out my week in my planner as well. So starting with adding the sleep, and I already mentioned that I get up at 6 and around 7 the kids have to get up. If it's a school day, then they eat breakfast. I don't eat breakfast, but I help them to get ready for school. So that's also time that I block because I'm busy with them, making sure they won't forget anything. So the time between 6 and 7 is like a period where they hopefully are not awake yet. Of course, many days they will, but this is the time that I can design, like, what do I want to do with them. Now, in my ideal week, of course, I plan ahead and think, what do I want to do with this hour? Last year, I used this hour for work to get the first thing done, or at least started. But this year, I wanted to do it differently. So this year, I used this hour for me. This is the hour that everybody else can go ahead and play if they wake up early, but this is where the focus is on me. I want to get as many things off my self-care list done at that moment, or at least work on some of my personal goals. For example, I start with doing Duolingo, where I'm learning different languages. I do at least one lesson in Duolingo, which doesn't really take a lot of time. But if I make sure I have this already crossed off my list, it takes off the burden the whole day. Because before I used to have it on my to-do list, and then in the evening before I went to bed, I was like, I still have to do this. And now I get it done first thing in the morning, so I don't have to think about it the rest of the day. This is a part of building rituals and routines for your day, which is something I want to talk about in a different video. I will just put down, it's about me. Me, me, me. And it sounds super selfish and maybe even ridiculous, but you can fit everything into this hour, from a reading practice, doing yoga, or some kinds of other sports. And it don't needs to be anything very long and that takes a lot of time. And if you're a little bit flexible, of course, when the kids wake up early, you might need to reschedule your stuff. But at least this way you have the best things already done in the morning. I fit a little bit of work into this hour, even though it's my self-care hour, because once I get the kids out of bed and until I get them into school and get back to the computer, already 2 hours have gone. So I start with also reading and answering some emails in the morning before I am away from my computer for 2 hours. I'm also quite strict with my evenings. I really want to avoid working late in the evening. Of course, my social media is something I do in the evening, which can be considered as work, spending time on Instagram, but I see it as a leisure to relax and chat with people, post pictures or react on them. Which means my workday shutdown ritual is mostly the time before we have dinner. And we have dinner usually at the same time every day. So I will already fill this one in as well. If you have watched my goal setting video, you know one of my goals is to do more board games with the kids, to make like a board game afternoon or evening as a part of our week. So I plan this board game moment into my ideal week as well. And for my running goal, I also need to plan my running moments into my ideal week. This of course depends on yourself, your own body and your own well-being, when sports will fit you best. I've experienced that I'm the best at running longer early in the morning and on an empty stomach. So I cannot do long runs after dinner. I'm not sure if you can see, but already with those kinds of items added into my schedule, there's little space left. The things that still need to find their place are household chores and my work hours. Most of the household things are items I want to fit in when the kids are around, because I don't want them to think there are fairies living in this house cleaning everything. But some things make sense to do in the morning, like putting the laundry on. Cleaning out the dishwasher is actually part of my ritual when the kids are preparing their food for school. So that's already blocked. But the other things I will put down right after they return from school. So just first getting the household stuff done. And Saturday morning is the moment where we as a family get around and put stuff back in their place, refresh the beds and things like that. So we have a clean and organized house before we move into our board game moment. As I mentioned before, instead of using this first hour in the morning for work-related stuff, I have started using it for me-related stuff this year. So of course that takes away 6 or 7 hours of work that I usually fitted into these hours, and I needed to find a different spot in my week because I still have enough work to fill those hours. And I moved some of it into the Sunday, so I do work during the weekends now. It actually feels like getting a head start of the week if you're able to get most important thing done, or maybe plan at least the social media posts and stories, the topics that you want to cover. So I feel very positive about working during the weekends, and I don't think it's a problem for the kids either to see that I also work during the weekends. Of course, it's nice to have a job from 9 to 5 and be able to close the door and not have to think about work or do work when you are at home. But for me, work is also a big part of our family life, and they are able to see that I combine them and my work as well. Yeah, so that's what I try to do with designing my ideal week, to make sure that I limit my work hours and really put down when I will finish working for the day. And also considering the goals you have set, where does it fit into your ideal week? If one of your goals was to get fit this year, maybe you have a weight loss goal and you want to build those habits into your ideal week, but now you look at your schedule and you don't see any time left for sports or moments that you planned for sports, then you should reconsider what you have planned or the goal you have set, because you really need to see this template as a reflection of how you are getting towards your goals. So just a quick recap. When I start planning this template, I fill in all the fixed things, appointments that have to go into it: school pickup, school drop off, sports lessons, music lessons, other kinds of things that are set. Like if you have dinner with your parents every week, that goes into the template because that's a fixed date of time you cannot spend doing everything else. Then I start by adding all the important but positive stuff. Sleep really limits the hours that you can spend doing anything else, so that should be a priority to put it in first. Then I put in my me time, self-care, sports and music lessons for myself before I start adding in household, and finally my work. Of course, if your work are fixed hours, that goes into the first thing. I will do a different video on how I use this template to really plan my week ahead. But I think first getting this template done is the most important thing. So good luck with that.